So with all that said, I'm excited to get started and jump into our discussion today. I would love to start with a couple simple questions. I want to hear from each of you. Where are you spending your time on social media? Has that changed because of COVID, or what changes have you seen on the platforms that you're actually using and how you're approaching looking at content creation and where you're spending your time on social media?
Yeah, so this is clearly the time for using your banked content. If you were able to shoot before the coronavirus, then you have this bank of content that you can use and repurpose. Or if it's content that you've used prior, it's a good time now to go back and maybe think about re-editing it. And if you don't know how to edit, or you don't have those tools available to you, there are a lot of apps that you can use on your phone to pull in that content, the video. You can add music, you can add filters, you can add effects. So while I'm teaching, that's definitely something that we're talking about, is look in your camera roll. What's already in your camera roll that you can use and create new content? So even if you're mixing in, like an intro or an outro on something new from your phone, and adding that old content, you can even start looking at your content and giving reviews of, oh, this was a great moment when I did XYZ, or check out my performance. You can add those bumpers onto content that you've already used before. In the classroom, it's really interesting because platforms are adapting to the current climate, and they're actually creating units or places to have conversations that are based on certain hashtags. So if you are looking to be a part of a conversation, it's easy to find those just simply by using a hashtag. If you want to collaborate, this is a perfect time to start collaborating with other creators online, and reaching out by DM or sending a tweet or doing something else, because people are mostly, working from home, and they're available and they're checking their phones more often than they were before. It's a boom in entrepreneurship. You're seeing a lot of new creators starting new businesses, or they're jumping on platforms where they can interact with their audience and then ask for money, but in the way that you should do on social media. So these social media platforms, especially if you go live, you can start asking for contributions. So while you're doing your lives or doing your videos, that's something to think about, is incorporating which platform makes sense, and which one of the platforms have adapted, where you're able to reach to your audience and you can get those contributions.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you brought up authenticity and how we navigate that. I think that's been a question that I've heard a lot, certainly in the midst of these social movements, but just in general, people ask, hey, I feel like on social media, I need to be promoting myself all the time, and that doesn't necessarily feel right. Ayana, you work with a lot of other people managing accounts and supporting people. What's the guidance that you've had in this time?
So I work with one major celebrity, and that was something, a decision to make when people were going dark on social, and when they decided to come off of being dark on social, and what was that first message. And so that message was definitely crafted with a video, in fact, that showed footage that was happening in their hometown, and how you can support. And so staying authentic, definitely, you saw a shift in social where it became a big divide. It was people that were posting these every day, look at me, I'm at the beach. And then there were people that were posting things that were in support of a cause, or just talking about the moments and taking that time. So when it comes to like authenticity, I always recommend to go live, or to do a message that's addressing a situation, or show how you can support. So you saw a lot of viral posts that went where it became a shareable moment, where people said, I'm in solidarity, or whatever that messaging was during that time period. So when it comes to authenticity, you should definitely use your voice. And what you post, it needs to be sort of like looking at, if you're looking outside, what's the climate, instead of just staying in a box. I think a lot of influencers and people on social, they stay in a box. It's like, this is, where I live in my Instagram box or Facebook, and this is what I talk about. And so my channel needs to stay this way. And when it came to brands, a lot of people were checking, the pages to see if they had posted a message in solidarity, or what the cause was, or if they were doing a grant or a donation. And so a lot of consumers lost customers based on that, because they were not taking a part of the conversation. So, when you're talking about celebrity, if you're talking about a brand, or if you're just talking about yourself, it's a very fine line. There's something called the unfollow Minotti, and basically people decide, your audience, if they unfollow your account based on what they see, and if it sort of resonates.
Yeah, absolutely. What's been inspiring you on social media, whether it's content people are creating, ways people are utilizing technology? What gets you excited about this?
Oh my gosh, the list is long. Because there's so many changes and there's so many things that are happening. I can say that I love how content creators are pivoting to being more authentic. That's sort of topical what we're talking about. So you see people like Oprah cooking from her kitchen, letting you into like her lifestyle. And so I always recommend that to content creators that sort of have produced content. It's a pivot mode where you go into saying, this is sort of the day in the life, or behind the scenes, or, like when I call her Mother Oprah did, she's cooking in her kitchen. Let people into your homes. Create content that's sort of sustainable. Like, it's sustainable to create content about a day in a life, about you cooking, or if you have a hobby, or if you're bike riding, or you're hiking. That's sort of sustainable. What I do love about technology is the power of hashtags to join a conversation. A lot of people are saying, well, how do I get more followers? This sort of thing. It's literally joining a conversation, and each platform is very specific to that. So for instance, Twitter, I personally feel like celebrities or people with larger followings or athletes, like, they really pay attention to Twitter above all platforms. So I feel like, if you're looking to reach out or to create content, Twitter's the place to be, to tweet at people that you want to start, potentially collaborating with. The other thing that I like about it is, brands are watching. So, what Ryan was saying earlier about, being authentic. This is the time to be authentic with your content, because they are looking for places to place their product, or to get you to talk about it. And for those of you who have, what we call like a nano following, I've seen people get brand deals with less than 1,000 followers. And really, it goes back to your engagement rate. So say, for instance, if you have a really high engagement rate, but your following levels is low, that doesn't mean that you opt out of saying, well, it's not the time. It's never going to be the right time. So, I always tell my clients, if you want to do this on your own, and my students as well, start DMing brands. You'll be surprised. These DMs are monitored on social, and you'll get a response. And it's simply saying, I love your product, or whatever it is. And I was, wondering if you have, if you're doing collaborations or brand deals. And instantly, I tried it out for a smaller client, just to sort of walk her through the process. And she got responses from some of larger brands, or they have a platform that they'll direct you to. They'll say, please log in. They'll ask you to connect your socials, so that they make sure that your following and your engagement rate, they can pull all this content, the analytics, the data about your accounts. And if they're interested, they'll let you know. So someone had, less than 1,000 followers, but their engagement rate was right at about 12, 13%, which is really high. And it's really good for such a small following. They were able to get a trade, which is what we've been talking about as well. So it's not a paid opportunity, but it is an opportunity to do a trade. So you can get a code, and you sort of start from there. Sometimes they'll say, we'll give you a specific code, and it's really like an affiliate code, where you're telling your followers, please, use my code when you're purchasing this. And then if you are able to get some sales or to generate revenue, then that's sort of a larger conversation. So yes, those opportunities are still there. brands are looking at your social. So please stay active. I'm pretty sure you've covered this in prior sessions, but the algorithm is demanding, and you have to post frequently. And even if, say, for instance, you're talking about Instagram, if you don't feel like you have content that's necessarily for your feed, go live, or produce content in stories. There are a lot of apps that are out there that can help you create stories stylized. Or if you just want to be authentic and turn it on and use some of the filters. I always feel like using what these platforms give you, stickers and filters and boomerangs and things like that, it definitely favors, when you post that type of content. So make sure you're staying active on each of the platforms, and then try something new. So, people in the beginning, it was like, oh, TikTok, that's for teenagers, that's for kids. And then you start seeing a lot of these celebrities migrate over to TikTok. And so now it's a thing. It's so much of a thing that now we have Reels, on Instagram. So be sure to make sure that you're participating, because early adapters, they really show favor in the algorithm if you're starting to use these tools early on. So for instance, I bet you right now, if you went on and posted something on Reels, you probably get more views there than you would on the feed. And it's simply because the algorithm, that's what's working right now. And so if you're an early adapter, I say this all the time, please, when something rolls out, try it and stay consistent.
I love that. As we look at starting to wind this down, I'm curious, I'll go around and ask each of you some words of wisdom that you have for people, either in terms of approaching social media in general. You all touched a lot about authenticity and changing how you're approaching social media in a global pandemic. And what words of wisdom do you have for people in the midst of all of that?
Yes, I want everyone to really just think about your social media channels as your channel. Like, you are in charge of programming it. So as being performers, as being creators, you literally can program your channel, your social media platforms all day long. So don't forget that. Like, this is your own network. You have the power. Oftentimes, one of my clients, he's a well-known celebrity, but he also often gives these motivational talks, and he talks about writing your visions down. So when you're having trouble trying to figure out, well, what do I post? Do I post a picture? Do I do a video? Do I talk about what I'm wearing or my shoes? It's really about having the intention of what you want to post. So you can start with the vision board, or you can just write them down. He says write down 300 things on your that you have for a vision, and then look at those every day and start to manifest these things. So I just want to leave people with, you are in charge of your channel. You have the power to program it the way that you want it programmed. You get to pick the content, you get to edit, you get to collaborate, you get to bring people on. If you can't do that in person or physical, it's great just to create side by side, to have someone record something, you record something, and then edit it together. Like, there's really a way to connect and make these things come true. So, find the platform that you're most comfortable on. It may not be TikTok, it may not be Twitter, but it may be YouTube or Instagram or some other platform. But find what's comfortable for you and start to create. You have the power. This is your channel, your life.
I love that. Thank you so much to each of you for sharing your incredible wisdom, experience, and advice. I am personally overwhelmed with gratitude for each of you, and my own vision for the world is one where each and every one of you watching can share your art and creativity with the world, whether that's through acting, dance, your voice, your professionalism as a broadcaster, whatever gifts you have, may they be shared with the world. And on behalf of the team here at SAG-AFTRA, I would like to thank all of you for watching, for taking the time to be with us, our guests for making the time to be here and sharing all of this incredible insight. A very special thanks to all of you who've been tuning in each week for our President's Task Force on Education, Outreach, and Engagement live streams. And if you haven't already, while you're here, smash that subscribe button on SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel to get updates on the great content being presented each week, including the past 2 social media live streams that many of you have asked about. So with that, thank you all so much for tuning in. Stay safe and healthy.